This is the Mason World Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, episode 28.
You can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
You're listening to the MasonWorld.com Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast with your host, Mark Mason, building internet businesses one night at a time.
Hey, I'm back on the mic and I'm back in the great state of Texas. Hooray. Boy, it's great to be home. I have been all over the world. I've been to India. I've been to Florida. I've been to Galveston, Texas. I've been to Taiwan recently. I've been all over the place. So it's really great to be back, and I've done a pitiful job of staying on the mic during that time, and for that I do apologize, and I do thank all of you who took the time to send me a friendly and encouraging tweet or Facebook post or whatever, asking where the next episode of the show is. This is the next episode of the show. It's episode 28, and I really, really appreciate you guys being here. You know, I've got lots of excuses for why I have been having trouble getting the show out. Lots of stuff going on in my day job, and one of the things that I try to do in the Mason World brand, you know, the whole idea is this part-time internet marketing thing. Is how do regular people like us figure out how to build a successful business online. I call it late night internet marketing, building businesses one night at a time, because that's really what I try to do. But the challenge is, you know, sometimes life really gets in the way. I mean, it's just really complicated. And last episode, I shared with you my tips for how I think you can fight that. And sometimes you can win, and sometimes you don't win, and you have big gaps or delays, or projects get delayed. And I think one of the big tips that I should have had in that episode is a tip I'm going to give you right now, which is you just got to get going again. So, you know, when you realize some water has gone under the bridge, you can go ahead and get started again, because after all, the future's all out in front of you. There's no time like the present, and all those great cliches like that. And if you've got a project out there that you hadn't made as much progress as you wanted, or you let a couple of days go by and those days have turned into a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden you've gone a month without publishing your weekly podcast like I did, you know, that's okay. Get back on the mic, get back on the keyboard, send out that next blog post, and you'll find that once you get that momentum rolling again, that's usually the kind of thing you're going to need to get yourself started, and you can just build from that, and that's okay. The important thing, I think, is not to give up, because most of the people that I've seen in internet marketing who fail, oftentimes it's because they've given up too soon. One of the sayings that I love is, behind every instant success is a 10-year story that you don't know about. And I think that's almost always true, that there are all kinds of struggles and failures and difficulties that people have behind the scenes that you never know about. These famous people, exactly what happened to them or how they got where they got. So just keep slugging away at it, and I'm going to do the same thing, and hopefully that'll be helpful to you, because when I was in high school, this is back in the 80s, so that tells you I'm an old guy, right? So, and for those of you that are old out there like me, internet marketing is not just for young people. I know it seems that way, but you know, old guys like us, we can get it done as well. But when I was in high school, I was dating a girl. Man, she was really great, and her father owned his own business, and he was in sales, and he handled the sales for his business along with a bunch of other stuff. And he had a book by Zig Ziglar. I'll never forget this. It's called Secrets of Closing the Sale. And he had seen Zig speak. Zig is from Dallas, and he had the cassette tapes. At that time, I had a cassette player in my car. And he loaned me these tapes for the Secrets of Closing the Sale. And I never will forget this. I think of the things that have influenced my life, this has certainly been one of the top 10 or 15 things. In this book, Zig says you can get almost anything you want in life if you'll just help enough people get what they want. It's just a really simple idea. And it says if you really make your focus solving other people's problems and helping them get things done, you'll be able to get everything that you want out of life just by having that focus. And it goes right along with what I think you should do in affiliate marketing. And it goes right along with the kinds of things that I try to do on this podcast and on the masonworld.com blog is help people. The rest of it takes care of itself. Now, if you don't believe me, and you might not, I encourage you to go listen to Pat Flynn's latest podcast episode. I think it's episode 41. I'm going to look it up for you here real quick. So Pat Flynn just recently got back from Blog World Expo, and he was kind enough to re-pitch his affiliate marketing, the Smart Way pitch that he gave at Blog World Expo in New York. I guess he was in New York this time. And yeah, that's session 41 over the Smart Passive Income blog. And Pat talks about the same thing. This is not a new idea. To create a real business, you've got to add value. And if you really focus on the way you add value is by focusing on helping people, you will be successful in the long run. That is how the really, truly successful people, both financially successful and personally successful from a kind of an introspective self standpoint, that's how really successful people do it, I'm convinced. And that's something that I learned from Zig Ziglar in 1984. And if you haven't seen Zig Ziglar, he's retired now. His son Tom is running the business, but go on over to Audible and search for Zig and grab. If I were going to grab one thing, I would grab this thing from Zig called "See You at the Top" or something like that. It's basically talks about all the things that you can do in your life to reach all of the goals that you may have. And I tell you what, Zig is an incredibly motivational speaker and somebody that I really recommend. So the point of all this, focus on adding value, and you can really be successful in your business. If you're having trouble getting stuff done, don't worry about it. Start doing stuff today. Keep moving, and follow my example. Get back on that horse.
Building your business one night at a time.
All right, so one of the things I like to do in the podcast is talk about things that are going on in internet marketing news. And a couple of things that I've seen recently that I thought were really cool. One thing that I thought was amazing, Mike Filsame, who generates, that generates a reaction from everybody. You mentioned Mike's name. A lot of you know Mike Filsame's story. He was a used car salesman, or a new car salesman, a used car salesman. He worked in a car dealership very successfully. And then he discovered this internet thing. This was probably 15 years ago by now, and started putting up sales pages and was working late at night, just like I talk about all the time, and eventually hit it big. And he's a kind of a 7-figure internet marketer. Everybody talks about 6-figure businesses. Mike's a 7, or maybe on a good day, 8-figure kind of guy. And he elicits a reaction from people. My understanding is he's kind of an introverted, really nice guy. He emails a lot, and some people are turned off by kind of the aggressive marketing tactics that he uses, or has used in the past. Recently, I've seen kind of what I think is a softer side of Mike, but he's got really great products out there. He's revolutionized a lot of the business process flows in internet marketing over the years. He's the owner of pay.com. He's had a bunch of really other cool ideas that didn't take off as much as I thought they would, like butterfly reports over the years and stuff like that. But the latest thing that he's launched is this thing called Site Sales. Now, if you haven't seen this, it's over at sitesales.com. And the cool thing about this is it really promises to solve all the headaches that I always hear from people who want to sell a product online, an information product or some other kind of product, because it tries to package everything that you need to be successful with your online sales page into one sort of graphical user interface, drag and drop sort of thing. So you build sales trees with upsells and downsells. If you're not familiar with that term, maybe that's something we ought to talk about on a future episode. You can build membership portals instantly with this thing. It handles affiliates and all your shopping cart stuff. It's got some social media hooks in it, and it's hosted in the cloud, and you can put your uploads in there, the whole thing. So a lot of times when you're wanting to sell your first ebook online, one of the things you've got to deal with is you've got to get that sales page up, and you've got to get a buy button going, and you've got to get this service and that service and autoresponder and all that. Well, this promises to put all that together. So I thought that was really cool. If that sounds interesting to you, I haven't checked out Site Sales except to watch the sales video. There's a webinar that you can watch that's very impressive. It's a neat idea, and I think, I'm not sure, I don't know anything about the product. I'm certainly not endorsing the product itself, but the idea for the product is absolutely fantastic, because I've been one of those guys that struggled putting those websites together, and I just love the idea of a product that solves all those problems. The other thing I've seen in the news recently that I think is really interesting, it makes me wonder, are the days of Facebook and Google truly numbered? From my point of view, Google's had a number of missteps here recently. I think they're under a real threat from Facebook because there was a study done from a company that I don't know anything about, ZYXT Labs. And ZYXT Labs did this study of 1.3 billion URLs and found that 21% of those URLs referenced at least one Facebook URL. That means that more than 1/5 of the web, if you take their sample of 1.3 billion URLs, 1/5 of the web links back to Facebook in some way. Now, that's just crazy. So Facebook, we understand it's dominant because we all spend time on Facebook. All marketers are talking about how to get the most out of Facebook. But in addition to that, there's real evidence that Facebook is just so incredibly firmly entrenched in the web. 1/5, 21.7% of all websites or all links studied link back into Facebook. That's amazing. So I think that's at the site level. So if you don't believe Facebook is here to stay, maybe it's because of what happened to Digg. So for those of you that have been in the internet marketing social media game for a long time, you remember Digg. Digg was the thing that if you were a blogger, your whole life was all about getting digs. You asked people to give you digs. It was the equivalent 5 years ago of asking for a Facebook like. And I mean, it seems like that was just a few months ago that Digg was really important. And today, I guess on the 12th or earlier this week, Digg was sold. And it wasn't just sold, it was sold in pieces. It was basically a fire sale. Some people bought some patents. Other people bought the Digg brand and are going to try to resurrect it. But, this thing that was so incredibly relevant is no longer relevant. I kind of feel the same way about Slashdot. There was a time when there was a term in the industry, you talked about getting Slashdotted, and that if your website was mentioned on Slashdot, you were almost surely going to get taken down. And in fact, getting Slashdotted still is a pretty big deal, but no one talks about Slashdot anymore. It's gone. And so that makes me wonder, with all the missteps, at least in my opinion, that Google is making regarding the way they treat their AdSense publishers, the way they've jacked around their algorithm, their complete and utter ineptness in social, the way that they have had problems dealing with algorithms and so forth, the way their whole search engine is getting spammed by internet marketers building backlinks, it really makes me wonder, is Google forever? I don't think it is, because I can tell you about 10 or 15 years ago, I probably would have told you Yahoo was forever, and Yahoo's gone, essentially. And I would have told you that MySpace was always going to be really important about 10 years ago, and MySpace is completely irrelevant, at least in my opinion. So, I think as important as these things are, they're not going to be around forever. And I think that also means that occasionally when you hear somebody talk about how their whole business is based around their Facebook fan page, that's a mistake. You need your own website. You need your own email list. You don't need to trust those things to other people, because these things come and they go. And so that's what I can take away from the news that I see here on these articles about Digg, is that, this stuff that seems so important, it seems like it's forever. It's not. The internet changes so fast that it's almost certainly true that this stuff is going to change, and someday it's going to be gone. And when it goes down, you don't want it to take you down with it. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the corn sheller site. You'll recall that I recently was talking about the corn sheller site that I built on a whim, based on an email from my buddy Josh Spalding. Josh is involved in this tool called Keyword Canine. You can check that out, my review of it, over at keywordcanine.net. And for those of you that have been frustrated, by the way, a lot of people have contacted me. That's a Josh Spalding and John Lachey project that they're doing together. For those of you that have been frustrated that you haven't been able to get in, the reason you haven't been able to get into that, and by get in, I mean buy it. For those of you that haven't been able to buy into that, the reason you haven't been able to is that Josh and John have been very conservative about the number of people that they let into the system, because they don't want to overload the engine that they've built. They want to make sure that they can service the customers that they have. That's just kind of how John and Josh roll. They're all about that kind of stuff, customer service and so forth. So they're being very careful. They are opening it up again on Monday, the 16th of July. So if you're listening to this in the future, that date may have come and gone. But if you're listening to this on the release of it, you can get back in on the 16th of July. And again, you can see that at keywordcanine.net. Anyway, when they were first starting that up, you'll recall that Josh sent me a goofy list of keywords, and one of them was corn sheller. And I didn't even know what a corn sheller was, but I researched it. I thought, okay, this is pretty interesting. The tool was reporting that it would be easy to rank for this. Sure enough, I built a site and built some backlinks to it in a panda unfriendly way, and that worked great. This was pre-panda. It worked awesome, and pre-penguin rather, and it worked awesome. And sure enough, when Penguin came along, the site, which was making money and getting upwards of 100-something visitors a day, went down to zero traffic and therefore zero earnings. Well, recently the site picked back up, and the only thing that I did to cause the site to pick up in traffic was I put some directory, about 500 directory backlinks onto the site. Now, I chose that because the anchor text for directory backlinks is kind of goofy, and it should fit well with a Penguin kind of linking restrictions. So, with Penguin, you don't want too much exact match anchor text. And if you look at the anchor text that ends up getting put on these directory links, that seemed like that would work pretty well. And sure enough, the site popped back up again for about a week or two. And so that's some signs of life. My belief is that what Google does is they promote sites up into the top of the ranking, and then they review the results. What's the time on page? Are people hitting the back button and going back to the search engines and so forth? And if people stay on the site, they use that as a signal to say, yep, this is a good one to have in the rankings. People like this result. That's part of their algorithm, as I understand it. And this is often referred to as the Google dance. People will see their site go from 40 to the first page and back down again. And so I think this is an indication that the corn sheller site may be coming back, and it's related to these directory links, I think. Now, as an engineer, and I've told you this before, correlation does not equal causation. What I mean by that is I have no direct evidence that the directory links are actually what is causing this to pop back up. All I can tell you is I did directory links and the site popped back up. That doesn't mean necessarily that that's the reason, but that's the best guess I've got right now. So I'm going to build some more links to the corn sheller site. I'll keep you updated, and we'll kind of see what's going on with that. And my counsel to you is that if you've got sites that have been affected by Penguin, I personally, what I'm doing is I'm building backlinks to those sites with pretty randomized anchor text, and that's what the directory links do for you. And particularly if you're using a submission tool that will allow you to widely vary the site title that you can submit with those directory links. So that's what's going on with the corn sheller site. I thought you'd be interested to know that. I'll have a full up blog post showing some data and graphs and details and stuff on that on masonworld.com in the coming week.
Building your business one night at a time.
Okay, so that gets me to my last topic for the day, a little topic about feedback. And I hang out over at the Internet Business Mastery Academy. Sterling and Jay are a friend of mine. I guess now they're going by their real names. So for those of you that don't know this, Sterling, his real name is Jeremy, and I guess he wanted to go with the Sterling name. I always thought Sterling sounded kind of like a a porn star name or something, but for whatever reason, they're switching back. So instead of Sterling and Jay, I think they're Jeremy and Jason now. They're going with their real names. The unmasking of the Internet Business Mastery gurus has happened, and Jason told me that they're going to have a episode on this. Maybe it's already aired, but in any case, I hang out over there as a community moderator because I like the interaction. I like helping people and paying it forward. Pat and I both got started over there. Pat Flynn and I both got started over there. So I really like it over there. That's a good place to find me if you ever find yourself in the Internet Business Mastery Academy. You can find me there. And one of the questions that often comes up is, will you evaluate my site? And one of the site evaluations that I looked at was somebody who had put together a site, and they were particularly asking questions about their site header. And one of the things I think you'll see if you look at the really, really popular sites is, in most cases, certainly not all cases, the site header is not very tall. And I would encourage you to do two things with your site header. One is, don't waste a ton of space, of vertical space on your site header. Make sure that it looks great. It's got your logo and your branding, and the colors look good. And, I encourage you to spend some money eventually on some professional artwork for your site header, but don't make it too tall, because it's really, at the end of the day, it's wasted space, and it's going to push your content down, as we say, below the page fold or off the bottom of the screen. So you don't want to waste too much space on the site header. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to make sure that your tagline containing your USP is right there in the site header. For example, tagline is, the thing that you associate with your business, and the USP is your unique selling proposition. What is it about your site that people should recognize is going to make them want to stay there? It's really important, because when someone hits your site, that's one of the first things they're going to see, and you want to set their expectation for what they're going to see on your site so they'll decide to stay. Otherwise, they're going to hit that back button and they're going to be gone. So that's what I have to say about that. That's my tip for you for this week is take a look at your header on your site. Don't make it too tall and don't waste space up there. Make sure that you've got your USP in your header where people can see it and that it looks good, but it's not too big.
Building your business one night at a time.
Okay, so I want to close the show today and talk to you a little bit about one of the things that I heard from Gary Vaynerchuk. This guy is just, I'm a big wine guy. I really enjoy wine. So I have a kind of emotional connection with Gary Vaynerchuk. I love his book, Crush It. If you haven't read that, I strongly recommend that. Gary released this video called the Yes Virus. And this video spoke to me. This is a problem that I have both in my internet marketing life and in my personal life and in my work life, in my day job life. I guess that's not both. That's in all parts. All three parts of my life. And it's this sort of big-hearted desire to say yes to opportunities. It's an intention to do the right thing all the time, but your eyes being bigger than your stomach when it comes to the amount of stuff that you can get accomplished. And the danger of the yes virus when you say yes to too much stuff is that you end up not meeting people's expectations, you miss commitments because you're overcommitted. So instead of under-promising and over-delivering, which is pretty common advice that you get for how you want to run a business, you tend to over-promise and sometimes under-deliver, and that's a very bad thing. So with my internet marketing business, a lot of times what I get into is I'll have an idea myself or someone will approach me with an idea. I think it's a really good idea and I really want to do it. So I figure I'll just figure out how to get it in there. And so that's the yes virus, and that's a bad thing. And so Gary talks about how he's grown his company over the last year by saying no to things. That's given him the time to focus on growing his company and kept him from getting distracted with the tyranny of many things. And so I think that's really, really good advice. I'll link to the yes virus video in the show notes. I definitely encourage you to do that. So for me, if I look at the things I've got going on in my internet business and the things that I committed to at the beginning of the year, it smacks of a little yes virus action. So I'm definitely going to be looking at sort of a mid-year assessment of my 2012 goals. I'll be publishing that assessment. It's not all great. There's a lot of stuff that I intended to accomplish by this time of the year that I have not accomplished, and I'll be talking about that on the podcast a little bit. I have made some good progress, gotten a lot of podcast episodes out there. There's a lot of good things to talk about, but there's still some gaps. And so I'll be talking about that and talking some more about how narrowing my focus on masonworld.com is going to help you, the listener, and hopefully get us to tighter, better shows and more great, valuable content. And so that's my plan, and that's what I intend to do. I hope you guys are glad that I'm back on the mic. I'm certainly glad to be here. And I'll be back next Thursday. I'm going to start my regular weekly Thursday production again next Thursday. That's 4 or 5 days from now. So look for me there. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic week. Hang in there. Keep working. Keep pushing. You can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Have a great one.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
Yeah, see, I startled you. You thought the show was over and there was the big air horn.